On this edition of R&B Reviews, we're going to take a look at the recent smash hit, The Hangover. And the plot with this movie is that Doug is getting married, and three of his friends decide to go to Las Vegas, bring him along, and have sort of like a bachelor-esque party. And the next day, they wake up, they find Doug missing. The three friends find Doug missing, and they have no recollection of what happened the night before from their heavy partying. And this was definitely an enjoyable movie. You know, when I saw the trailers, this kind of reminded me of Superbad in some ways, because when I first saw the trailer, you know, I try not to go by trailers because sometimes they'll do whatever the studio does whatever they can to get people in the theater, and if that means making the trailer look like something it's not. But when I first saw the trailer, it didn't look good. Just like I didn't think Superbad was going to look good. But when I went to see the movie, it was definitely much better than I expected. It was very funny, and I saw some similarities between those two films. Like in Superbad, there's a classic song. Like in Superbad, they do Guess Who's These Eyes, and in this movie, it was Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight. So I saw some similarities, and plus they're both somewhat gross-out comedies, but they're not as over-the-top as some of the other ones, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this one definitely, I think it's one of its greatest high points is it's very sharply written, and I really liked how it's just three guys pretty much trying to figure out what the hell happened the previous night, and they have to find their friend. So it's almost like a mystery thing, and they sort of, you know, follow each clue, and they see where it leads, and it leads from one funny escapade to another. But it doesn't feel repetitive or like you're seeing the same gag again. I mean, it seems like with each clue, you're getting closer and closer to the answers, and you want to know exactly, you know, you want to know more about what happened. And
I think these four actors, they're better known for their television work. You know, Bradley Cooper has done Kitchen Confidentials and a few other TV shows. Alan, the character of Alan, the actor that played him, I recognize from True Calling and The Office, Ed Helms as Stu. You know, I don't watch The Office, but I'm familiar with who he is. And Doug the guy that plays Doug has done a few other TV programs. So I thought it was very good that they did it that way, because I felt that if they casted big name stars, bankable stars like Keanu Reeves or Zac Efron or something like that, it could be a distraction. You know, you're thinking they're just in there just to try to lure their fans into the movie theater to see this film. And I think having actors that some people may not be familiar with, it makes the characters more believable. You know, you'll believe that this is Doug, you believe this is Alan, you believe it's these guys. And I thought it was very funny, like almost from the beginning. You know, it was paced well. I mean, almost from the beginning. Like there's a scene where Alan's going to be Doug's brother-in-law after the wedding because he's marrying Alan's sister. There's a funny scene where they're trying their tuxes on, and then we get to know a little bit about Bradley Cooper's character, Phil. He's a teacher that doesn't like his wife, you know, and it was funny almost from the beginning. You didn't have to wait till they get to Las Vegas for the comedy to take off. It's almost there from the beginning.
I agree with you. Comedy was there from the beginning, but I felt they sort of picked up the pace of the comedy in terms of once they sort of woke up and realized that they did not remember what exactly happened the previous night. Because that's when I figured out the movie sort of picked up more of a chaotic pace, and you know, you sort of felt more invested with the characters because they were just thrown in this really ridiculous situation. I mean, they had like a tiger in the bathroom, they had a baby, one guy was missing a tooth. I mean, it definitely seemed like, to me, it seemed like the humor really picked up its pace. I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't funny for the first quarter of the movie, but to me it picked up more once they sort of had to try and figure out what the hell exactly happened.
Yeah, I disagree with you. I think the humor and the pace was there like right from the start, and I liked how the characters somewhat go through a reformation. I mean, there's obviously there's Stu, and one reformation that I really liked was Phil, played by Bradley Cooper. In the beginning, he's a teacher. He says he doesn't like his family, but after this escapade in Vegas, he realizes, you know, he's glad he has them. And then there's Stu's relationship with his girlfriend, who the others are like, she's controlling, you know, you shouldn't be with her and all.
I don't know. Stu was the only character I really felt that had a really an arc throughout the entire movie, and he's the only one who really makes a big change in his life from point A to point B, because he's sort of the straight man in the movie. I mean, he's the only one who's like flipping out at every time something wild happens. He's the only one saying, "Why is this happening to us?" I mean, he's sort of the straight man who you follow in the movie, but the movie really doesn't give you one identifiable character. I mean, you're following these three guys.
Yeah.
But it somebody seemed like they gave him the character arc, and I kind of felt they could have developed the Bradley Cooper character a little more. The Zach Galifianakis character I thought was just fine the way he was. I mean, he really made the movie in terms of humor.
He didn't really go through any changes at all. Right?
He didn't. His character really didn't have to. I mean, he was just the perfect dumb, funny guy to have in there. I mean, he played it great.
Yeah, and plus you don't know what's... Funny thing about his character is you don't know what he's going to say or do next, and that's what... I think that's probably why he would probably be my favorite character from this particular film. But, I mean, yeah, Stu does have an arc, but in some ways I think Phil kind of goes through changes too. He, like I said, he doesn't like his life, but then after this, what happens to them in Las Vegas, he realizes he does love his family, and when they try to get back, it's like he kind of goes through some changes too.
Well, they felt that they definitely had a lot going on in this movie to really spend time with each of the characters to really develop them even further. But they already have a sequel in the works, so it'll be interesting to see how that develops and if they're gonna follow these same characters. And
I hope they do.
So, as do I, because I felt the cast worked perfectly together, and these are characters I'd be interested in watching another movie. Particularly the Zach Galifianakis character, because he was just pitch perfect.
Yeah, if they completely do different characters, I don't know if it's gonna be. I don't know if it would feel the same. That could be a tricky thing. But since the sequel is in the works, I hope they get to explore Stu and the stripper wife that he wakes up and realizes he's married, played by Heather Graham, because I thought there was something there that I wanted to see more of. I think if they do make the sequel, I'd like to see them, get to know them a little bit better as from that point of view, because I think that was very interesting. I thought that I saw something there more than from Stu's controlling girlfriend, which I didn't care that much for. But you're not supposed to like the controlling girlfriend to begin with anyhow. No. So you're definitely going to say see this movie in theaters?
I have to say see it. I mean, I hate saying see it with a lot of our movies, but this film, it's got great humor, it's very sharply written, the actors are all perfect in their roles, and there's really no weak points with this film that I can really complain about.
Yeah, and plus, I'm going to say see it in theaters too, and another thing I really, really liked about this movie is even you kind of care about these characters. You're rooting for these characters because in some of these other comedies I have seen, you just laugh at their misfortune. Haha, he's doing something dumb and all this, and you don't really care. With this movie, even though they're not the brightest people on the planet necessarily, you're kind of rooting for them and you care about what happens to them. And even if you're laughing at their misfortunes, you want them to succeed in their goal. Find Doug, get their act together, and that's what. And one thing, I don't know if you noticed this, but you know how Las Vegas is portrayed as like this glitzy, awesome gambling palace and all this? One interesting thing, when I saw the day scenes during Las Vegas, I don't know if you caught this, but it was like almost a completely different city. It's glitzy at night, but during the day, the streets look like they're almost empty, and in a couple of sequences in the background, I saw buildings like under construction. The people seemed to be different during the day, so it was definitely an interesting contrast. I don't know if you picked up on that.
I think it definitely played into the fact that they were hungover. They were definitely in an entirely different world now that they had gone through this completely insane night that none of them remember.
Yeah.
But in terms of comedies, this is definitely one that's above the bar, and it definitely succeeds. It's got a proper amount of gross out gags, but it also
and they're not too over the top.
No, they don't push it, but they definitely. They don't shy away from certain things, and they get away with a lot in this movie.
I think maybe during the closing credits they kind of pushed it a little too much.
Yes, I have to say one of the best closing credit sequences in terms of comedy, and the fact that it was purely just a couple disgusting moments in there that I really didn't think needed to be in there, but it definitely got in some last laughs in the movie.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, that's it for this edition. If you want to leave any comments about what you thought of the movie or any feedback about this review, we greatly welcome it. And we'll see you on the next edition of R&B Reviews.
Thanks for watching.